Developer Supergroup. Yo, I love Square. Soft. Enix, I also love, but in that hate-to-love sort of way. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 was kind of amazing, and World of Final Fantasy was fun, low-budget though it be, but I don't think I'd step into the controversial realm when I'd say that their output hasn't exactly been super stellar since the merger. Though, even then, they've never really made anything that I've hated. The Third Birthday was a confusing mess, but the gameplay was fun. Final Fantasy 15 was an unfinished dumpster fire, but it was my dumpster fire. And honestly, I kinda love Final Fantasy 13 too and appreciate Lightning Returns and 10 too for how innocently dumb they are. Plus, above all, I just love their style. The way that their soundtracks sound, always towing the line between pushing boundaries of what video game soundtracks could be and being full-on nostalgia blasts. Their gameplay systems, while flawed, are always at least interesting, and just how their characters and worlds tend to look, their font and UI choices, the weird fashion and pop culture influences, it's all gaudy for sure, but in an honest type of way. All of this is to say that if they, say, were to announce a game that harkened back to a series of their soft days while fully embracing the misguided cinematic sexy ambitions of their modern stylings, I would be entirely down to fuck. Oh, what's that? The gameplay feels like a generic third-person shooter. The game is janky as all hell. Japanese audiences don't seem to like it. Ha! What do they know? This is ThorHighHeels. Motherfucker. AKA the one guy who shit-talked Yahtzee and Angry Joe for thinking Mind Jack was bad. And I mean, look at it. A cult classic if I've ever seen one. Could you say the same about Left Alive, though? Well, it has some pedigree behind it, to say the very fucking least. We got Yoji Shinkawa of Metal Gear Solid fame doing the art, logos, and character designs. Shinji Hashimoto, the producer of all the original Front Mission games, producing it. Hideo Kojima himself was consulted during its conceptual stages many a times, and Toshifumi Nabeshima, the main director behind the Armored Core series, is directing it, with it also boasting some additional mech designs by Takeyuki Yanase, aka the person behind various Gundam designs. However, it wasn't developed in-house by Square themselves, and was instead outsourced to Enix, the developer behind the Gundam Breaker games and a few licensed visual novels like the Code Geass one for PS2. Not exactly high-profile or high-budget. And so, the game technically looks about a decade behind the times, the cutscenes aren't lip-synced to the English VO Final Fantasy X style, and the animation work is quite awful during gameplay. But see, here's the thing. There's a very long lineage of jank-ass shooters that are actually really cool and fun, but misunderstood and or underappreciated at their time because of mismatching expectations. Games that made up for their janky, weird, or even straight-up poorly designed shooting with their everything fucking else. Think of the broken but amazing Deadly Premonition, the surface-level generic but otherwise great Binary Domain, the strange but innovative Never Dead, the deep but mismarketed Vanquish, the low-budget but simplistically fun Mind Jack, and the repetitive but stylistically sound Shadows of the Damned. It is a fucking thing. The public wants X, but the game delivers Y, but gets shat on for its lack or execution of X as the Y gets disregarded. And everything about Left Alive gave off that vibe for me leading up to it. Reviewers shitting on it, saying it felt antiquated, YouTube funny men making videos turning it into a meme, and Square giving it next to no marketing push. It seemed on the outset to be a steaming pile of ass, and while I could have just accepted that, the fucking pedigree and legacy led me to believe that there had to be something there. A Y once again disregarded. So, let's at least try to appreciate the Y. The main idea behind this game is one of dealing with the fallout of a mech battle. and that shit is fucking golden. Just looking at a few mech games alone, there's always a very clear disregard for any and all surroundings, so it's really neat to see a game cut down to floor level to focus on 3 poor saps left alive in the shit-stained rubble. There's Mikhail, a rookie Wanzer pilot, Wanzer's being mechs, who is left alive without his Bodden unit, spending most of his time whining, losing his shit, and being scared. Then there's Olga, a friendly cop lady trying to save the child when suddenly war, leaving her, aliving her to find out where the child be. And finally, Leonid, the tragic MGS man who is supposed to be dead for being a naughty rebel boy but is now not dead, nor is his rebel buddy, the legendary soldier, now turned bat dude. And together they must survive and figure out why is war, other than the game blatantly ripping off MGS4.
Full-blown wars became things of the past, though proxy wars stubbornly persisted.
It's, mostly about them, I guess. While they're kinda supposed to be average Joes stuck in shit way out of their control, they do all have ties to this conflict that forces them further in. Soldiers get used, for example. Olga is also a former war girl and finds her old commander maybe being part of a child trafficking ring that might be at the center of it all, which is fucked up and unexpected. Of course, a dude being dead, not being dead is plenty interesting, and you also meet tons of wild weirdos along the way. Like a French journalist in Deep. He knows more about the war and shit perhaps being rigged as a front mission for something else, but only wishes to tell the rookie some snippets in exchange for dirty work. There's also this pretty sad lady who has lost her cause and feels responsible for the conflict somehow, and of course the child, who resembles someone who died in an accident ages ago, only now she's here roaming the battlefield like a ghost of anime's past. Ooh. Shit's plenty mysterious, and I kinda love it. The voice acting is on decent JRPG level as well, and the music, while blatantly ripping off MGS and is composed by Hidenori Iwasaki of Front Mission, The Bouncer, and Crystal Bearers fame, works wonders in terms of tensing up the scenes perfectly.
But it's too easy.
What are you talking about?
I doubt this information is false, but something smells.
There's something else you want me to do, isn't there?
This is literally just an MGS4 cutscene, but okay. The characterization, though, can feel a tad flimsy. The villains are all memes for one. I couldn't take any of them seriously, as they only wax poetically in gruff man guy voices while laughing maniacally and expositorily. Shit's scrumptious for sure, but when similar levels of 1D start applying to, say, Mikhail, it kinda crushes all ability to give a shit about his scared, sad whininess.
Not bad with just the arms to work with. You would have the nerve to do something like that.
You say that, but we've only seen him complain so far. Olga, I guess, is a bit more defined, mainly because she's actually likable, and unlike the rookie, she helps the child, speaks nicely to the AI helper lady despite her harassing you with
"Caution, the enemy is approaching"
every waking fucking minute, and she's also in it because she actually wishes to help people. She had a child once, you see, only it got dead in war, and so now she'll never let anyone die ever again. Leonid also takes the safety off of Rookie, confronting him with his douchey, hot-headed cowardice, which he then returns by questioning his epic revenge quest. It essentially takes these initially tropey bastards and slowly gives them more depth through all of the war-torn gray areas it puts them in, and that's pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, it stays firmly on 80s action movie cheese level, but A, that's perfectly in line with Front Mission, and B, as I said, the music and directing make it quite fun to watch. There's a lot of great shots in there too. The menus, font choices, and soundtrack, the cool-ass character designs all make for a pretty styling game that, while clearly trying to tribute/capitalize on Metal Gear, breaks away from the low-budget shackles with aplomb. Dunno, though, if any of that's enough to save it from... A pretty bad omen was set by me dying on the first second of gameplay. Bullets just came from fuck off nowhere, but hey, at least I learned right away how incredibly stupidly and I guess maybe realistically lethal the bullets are and that I needed to hide good. Which, you know, is fine on its own, but the controls and overall game feel that you're supposed to do that with suck really bad. I ain't gonna lay down to freaky down low all the way, but something about switching weapons with triangle rather than arrows or wheel, or running with R1 and ducking by clicking the analogs already feels rather unintuitive. It goes against general shooter design, I guess. Though, you could say the same about Metal Gear. Hell, 2 and 3 had stupidly weird and complicated control schemes that would make even Armored Core look funny, so nothing you can't get used to, right? Well, that's more or less where the game feel comes crashing in. The walking speed is too slow. The cover system that straight up janks you into enemy sights if you aren't careful is also not swift enough. Never to mention the camera not being shoulder flippable, thus not allowing you to see from behind cover. The combat don't feel good as the aim is far too sensitive. Throwing shit is dick because of the area of effect range markers never quite lining up properly. And also, sound design bad, and the menu system is confusingly laid out and complicated, making even the simple crafting an awkward bother. And so, it's hard to feel sneaky or powerful. You're not crawling through the mud with precise one-to-one pinpoint sneaking controls MGS5 style, or shooting big beefy guns at big beefy boys MGS4 style, or quickly dodge rolling between walls and swiftly clacking on MGS2 style. Not that it needs to be MGS style anything, but comparisons are easy to draw, and even on its own entire merits, I'd still point out how stiff and jerky the animation is, which is like half of the game feel donezo. And besides, the image is super cluttered. Especially at first, it can be quite hard to tell where guard, how many guard, and if they even know if you're there or not. There are clear states of spot, of course, but they aren't very well defined by a shocking or a satisfying. Honestly, a lot of the audio presence is missing in general. When you knock things over, they don't make a sound. Walking can sound pretty glitchy. Saving doesn't trigger a little ding letting you know that it happened. Waterfalls are entirely silent. And mechs flying overhead don't make a squeak either until they start busting down. Footsteps, looting, guards saying shit, music cues, engine sounds, big earthquakey things. That's the type of audioscape that you need to feel or fear a presence. So, in Left Alive, the illusion just isn't really working. It looks cluttered, yet sounds empty. Luckily enough though, the guards are fucking deaf, blind, and have dumb brains, so unless you engage, you can walk past most of them rather casually. And if you set one on fire, the others will come to investigate and light themselves on fire too by getting too close. That's really the one main gimmick to rule them all, by the way, the trap system. You can rig doors with wires, set down turrets, place mines, chuck smoke bombs, and throw can grenades. Shit's legit pretty neat. Every level is a small sandbox district with one or two main clear paths to your objectives and a few side places to find loot or avoid conflict. Or I think that was the idea at least. In practice, it's more like one giant level-wide MGS4 set piece where even motherfuckers miles away can aimbot lock on snipe you to death. It's basically a stealth game without stealth mechanics or level design. Guards are either placed so poorly that you can just walk by them willy-nilly, or are so densely and chaotically placed that any hope of recognizing a workable pattern is lost to fuck. Stealth kills are also a no-go 90% of the time, as the AI is far too random and lethal. Like, you either watch them burn to death, or...
My job's not done yet.
And that shit sucks fuck. Not that I'm against combat in stealth games or anything. Hell, I play most of them like I'm fucking Steve Rambo, and will also admit that the fact that you are very fucking under-equipped makes it pretty satisfying when you do take dudes down by the dozen, just as it does in Resident Evil or Metal Gear. It's just that doing so is next to impossible due to how broken and random the game feel and AI are, and the fact that, again, you die far too easily. I really cannot stress this enough. dying like 10 times in 10 minutes on a single encounter is pretty much the modus operandi, and that's provided that your checkpoint was even saved remotely close enough to be able to jump back in right away anyway. Which is also where the biggest issue rears its ugly dick. Left Alive lacks pacing. It doesn't know when a turret section stops being fun, or how many guards is too much, or how many tanks are cool to deal with, or where to place checkpoints, or how big a map is supposed to be. Like, okay, look at this. You got these two dudes patrolling, one guy pacing back and forth, a giant Wanzer who will one-hit kill you, and a few guys off in the back and around side. To deal with this, you have no, and I repeat, no stealth options outside of hitting them with a shovel and hoping that nobody notice, or throwing a Molotov and hoping that they didn't see where it came from. Now, let's take a look at what I did.
The enemy is approaching.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to die yet.
A silenced gun would have fixed this. An MGS Lego map would have too, but instead you just get these giant fucking dude banks that you are way too under-equipped to deal with. And it's always like that too, because on the other fucking route there aren't only a ton of drones, but also a tank with patrol and snipers who you can't even fucking shoot.
Caution. The enemy...
Straight up, the fucking railing just cock-blocked me. Not to speak of what these office chairs tried to pull. Now, at this point, I was pretty fucking puzzled as to how they got here. Like, surely it being impossible would have came up during playtesting, right? And so I started thinking, well, if it was intentionally designed to be this way with a purpose? Cause, I mean, Demon Souls is also like hard as nails, low budge, and kinda awkward, and that's considered a fucking masterpiece now, but only after people understood what it was asking of them. But what could be that purpose in Left Alive? Again, you're normal people dicked over by war, so the defenselessness makes sense in that sense, but the sneaking mechanics being so goddamn broken sure as shit doesn't. And see, here's the thing as well, when you do successfully sneak, there is a real tension there for sure. Seeing two dudes walk right by you, or barely staying in the blind spot of a giant Wanzer, or successfully taking some boys out with Molotovs, or traps.
Trap located.
All feel super suspenseful and above all rewarding because of how lethal said boys and Wanzers are. And I think that was their main aim, to make a more realistic stealth game where obstacles don't appear in clear patterns and where bullets don't sponge off your soggy snake. And I would respect that if the guards wouldn't spot me right through a fucking wall.
Caution. The enemy is approaching.
The enemy combatants!
Could you even see what just happened there? It went by so fast, which I guess is realistic too, but I can't really say that for the fucking wall hacks. Still, though, once I got more throwables, some better guns, and the hang of the controls, I actually started digging it. The fear of death and shitty checkpoints is fucking real, and the strings of better placed places where guards are only placed in duos or solos are actually engrossing. And then it shoves you into another big encounter again where you die like a billion times only to finally make it to the objective after a solid 30 fucking minutes of fucking around, which in this case was a Wanzer that controlled like complete ass, getting stuck on everything and giving very poor feedback on whether or not you were being hit or if you were hitting them, and also it still fucking dies in like 2 hits, only to then find out that the checkpoint was set before the 30-minute hell battle. Fuck my fucking ass. But of course, I push on and learn to use my fucking survivor buddy as a bullet shield distraction so I could run past quickly and avoid the fight altogether, and hold on, that's the point, isn't it? Being a massive bitch. Just run, roll, dodge, and power your way past all these enemies. Don't use stealth in a game without stealth, and don't use guns in a game with bad gunplay. Just leave and stay alive. All of these motherfuckers are cowards. They can't fight, they aren't decked out, they can't sneak either because the entire game takes place in a town being combed over in genocide. They're scared, so just run and hide. Use traps during the forced encounters and never leave cover, only using your gun in very dire situations of need, which fits the scarce ammo, and pretty much just play as if your life depended on it. Like this prompt says, escape the enemy. This isn't a stealth game or a shooter, it's a third-person coward 'em up. Which makes sense as well, not just thematically and narratively, but even from a level design standpoint. Escaping the batshit cluttered lethal chaos, rushing to the nearest checkpoints you can bookmark it as Dunzo, for instance, is fucking exhilaration incarnate. Barely scraping by every time. Figuring out speed-runnable routes and alternative paths on your many lives. There's a legit really great idea in there that's sadly mired by, well, everything I mentioned leading up to this. Nor does the game telegraph this very well, as the themes only become apparent when the plot gets going a few hours in. Not to mention the forced encounters and more linear bits in the early game suck and condition you to Metal Gear more. But the cowardice aspect does actually work and is quite the interesting why to counteract the janky X. And so, could this game be a hidden gem cult classic years from now? Well, not quite in the bona fide Deadly Premonition sense, but I could definitely see it being whispered about in the future in the same way that certain groups are doing with Never Dead or are beginning to do with Devil's Third, now that it has enough cynical meme reviews openly and blindly dunking on it. You know, in that I feel it was unfairly compared and misunderstood. Like, yeah, it's not great or anything, but I had fun with it kind of way. And that's also the thing, it's not a Metal Gear game, so playing it like one won't work. But when playing it like Left Alive, i.e. using traps, frantically running for your life, and dodge rolling out of harm's way as giant mechs gun you the fuck down only to have to do the same to waves of one-hit kill death dudes, only about an hour later, you might find it to have a tension and sense of reward all on its own, jank and broken though it may be. Also frustrating. Oh boy, can this game be fucking frustrating. But hey, I ain't gonna judge if you're into a bit of harsh love from time to time, so give it a try, I'd say. You know, 5 or so years from now when you can buy it for like $10 with zero expectations going in. Otherwise, stay right the fuck away, you will hate this. Worst game IGN, 10 out of 10.